By now, Carol, did we pass out the brochures?
I did.
Did everybody have one of my, the one of the brochures? I don't. Carol. I need one. Okay. So what I'm gonna be talking about today, this is just a section. I do actually do a 3-part series, where I talk about family communication. This is series 1, conducting family meetings and helping aging parents. And then also the last part of that deals with the probate process. So, what I'm gonna be dealing with now is actually communication within the family. And the reason I start with that is because that's usually where in my experience in dealing with some of my customers, seems to be where the problem lies. And when I started this and I was collaborating with, actually with Dr. Holmes from Alabama, and it was the first one that approached me. And her question to me was, well, Ms. Burgess, how do you get the family talking to each other? And that always seems to be an issue with most family, is just getting the family together and actually talking. And that's what made me say, okay, well, let's just start there, because you can't dive into anything else until you resolve that issue. And so, I always reference that the scripture, Matthew 18:20, when it says, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of that. And the reason I want to use that scripture is because it's just to say, families are talking anyway. They're just not talking to each other. You got these 2 talking over here, and these 2 talking over there, and that one talking over there, but everybody's not really talking together. And that's not real good communication within the family, because that's also what can cause some division. So that's why I kind of put this together, and that's what we're going to delve into today, is helping you to better understand the importance of the family communication and why, you want to get started with that. Next slide. Okay, this picture, I always like to use this picture because it's a typical family picture. Some of you probably got one of these. If you've seen one, your mama, your grandmama, great-grandmama, somebody had an old picture like that, where the family probably, in this particular picture I'm saying, it's a typical picture, maybe a Sunday afternoon, everybody after church come together, took this picture. And this shows all of the different generations. What I like about this picture is this little person sitting right here. Guess who that is? That's me. And when I do these sessions, this is why I stress the importance of communication should be for everybody, from the smallest to the oldest. A lot of times families want to exclude the small children. Well, like I said, this probably is a Sunday afternoon. And typically what happens is, like, I'm here, but you see these two little boys on the other end, those are my 2 brothers. I was somewhat of a tomboy. So if you notice, I'm sitting like they sitting. And they probably had to chase me down just to even get into that picture, because you see, I'm not even part of the group.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And the reason I try to stress that is because when I think about what I'm doing now, I think that's when the seed was planted. I had no idea, but every Sunday when the family would get together, after and the man in the middle of here, that's Papa John, that was my grandpa. These are all of his children. Of course, everybody on the second and the third row have all since deceased. But I do remember as a child how they would always sit around and talk about what we're going to do about Papa, what we're going to do about the property, what we're going to do about this, and what we're going to do about that. Even though I didn't understand it, in my little cardinals of my brain, I remember those. So that's why I've been saying, don't be excluding the little ones thinking that they don't know. They need to be in the room just so that they can hear the information, because they're just as important. And also you want to make them feel important, because this is also, they're part of the family. Next slide. I just like to point that out, why that is important. And also back to that slide, I had written a scripture there that reference to that, where Jeremiah says, I know the plans I have for you. So even back then, I said, when that seed was planted, I had no idea I would be doing this today, going around talking about the importance of family communication. This is another family picture. Am I in the way of the camera?
You're fine.
And the reason I keep pointing out these family generations, this is another generation. And I always stress the importance, family is family. Family dynamics vary, okay, today. You don't have that standard family, mother, father, sister, brother. There's some of that that's still around. I remember my nieces in California were saying when they were in high school, all of their friends was shocked because as far as they knew, they were the only ones that were still at home with their regular parents. Everybody else had a step parent, single parent, adopted parent, but the traditional family as we once knew is becoming more and more rare these days. So when we think about family, and this is a typical family, but I also happen to know these people, and that's also as a blended family. I know this couple that's smiling up here, they were both each married at one time. They each had children at one time. So once they become married, guess what happens? Then they gotta blend their kids, and then it becomes a blended family. So regardless of what your family dynamic is, it is still family. And everybody needs to be included. All right, next slide. So for the purpose of today, what I'm gonna be focusing on, and I told you about the communication and why that's important, but so it's also important is how we talk to each other. See, sometimes people don't wanna talk to each other because you don't know how to talk to each other. You know, it might be something as simple as somebody stepped on your toe when you was 9 years old and you still walking around today 70 years old and holding a grudge because you don't like that person, okay? Because that was some unresolved issues that never was resolved. Now, I'm not gonna take that lightly because I was kind of convicted about saying that at one point, that sometimes some issues in the family might be so deep that it may not be that callous, and you might need some professional help, or the whole family might need to go into some type of counseling. So I'm just gonna make sure I throw this out here as my disclaimer. I am not a family therapist, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, I'm not an attorney, okay? I am a licensed professional real estate agent, senior real estate specialist, and a certified probate advisor. So I don't fall into those categories. However, I can talk about, as a senior real estate specialist, I have studied about the various generations and how they communicate with each other. So you've got what is known as the silent generation, the baby boomers, Generation X, and I figured the majority of everybody's in here is gonna fall into that top tier somewhere. The bottom tier deals with Millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z, and Generation Alpha. Okay, these are the generations, and we're gonna spend a little time talking about how that works. Next slide. So we're gonna start out with the silent generation. This generation, the age range is 76 to 96. And these were children of the Great Depression, post-World War II. They, in their era, there was no phone, no internet service. They typically probably wrote letters and mailed them. Some of them may have even been during the era when they had the wagon train. The mail was delivered by the wagon train or Pony Express. You know, that might be how far back. Because there is another generation before the silent generation. I just start with that one because there's another generation that's referred to as the greatest generation. And they really would have been the ones that would have been dealing with the horse and buggy age. But we're gonna start with this group. And as you can see, a brief description of that group: paranoid, suspicious, cautious, and conformist. And the reason this generation is that way is because they believed in working within the system. They didn't question a lot of things. They walked and they worked with their head down. They were not risk takers. They believed in playing it safe. They were thrifty. They believed in getting their money's worth out of everything. And they were very frugal. And some developed You're gonna like this, because some of them develop what we call hoarding behaviors. They believe in saving everything, even plastic containers, coffee cans, and old newspapers and old magazines. And I know I got experience this with my sister. She holds on to, she was even saving paper. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you saving all these little pieces of paper? Oh, I just don't want to waste anything, you know. But in this age, you have to be careful how you talk to people that are into this category. And the reason I point this out is because, well, I'm just gonna go through this first and just kind of give you the characteristics of each one that falls into each one of these characteristics. But like I said, if you know anybody that's in that silent generation that falls within that age group, you can probably relate. Like I said, most of them are hoarders. And I do another thing too, but I try to appeal to this group. These are the ones that I try to inform or influence them that they need to declutter, because they hold on to everything. And these are the ones that, like I said, they're hoarders. And you try to let them know that now is the time for them to start getting rid of some things that they may be holding on to for years. Because what I like to tell them is that if you don't get rid of it, you think it has value, but guess what? When you're gone, what happens? They're gonna get they're gonna call one of those rehaul junk people. They're gonna pull up to your house, and everything in there just gonna go into the dumpster.
Amen.
Okay?
Man.
All right, now the baby boomers, this might hit on a bunch of, a lot of the people that are in here, and that includes myself. So you got the baby boomers, this is 57 to 60, 75. This group of people are ambitious, optimistic, aggressive, and hardworking. And also, they were born in the mid-20th century, baby boomers. And there's also the Vietnam generation. The baby boomer children of either the greatest generation or the silent generation, and also these are the parents of the millennials. In the US, roughly 1 in 10 baby boomer men served in the US Armed Forces. This was when the draft was in effect. So you probably all know, going back, anybody that's in here that was during that time, you probably even knew somebody that went into the service, somebody that went to Vietnam, or I know a lot of men, either they got married so they wouldn't have to go, or they went to school so they wouldn't have to go. But anytime you turned 18, that was the standard thing. Anybody that turned 18 had to register for the draft. That was also the Civil Rights Act that passed in 1964, and that was also the time when Ebony and Essence magazine evolved, showcasing African American accomplishments. Thurgood Marshall, first African American appointed to the Supreme Court. Next slide. Generation X. Generation X, the 45 to 56, skeptical, latchkey kids, entrepreneurial, independent. I'm kind of ashamed to say that my daughter was a latchkey kid. Does anybody know what a latchkey kid is?
Moms at work, and they have their key to set their shelf in,
That's
put
it.
the stuff in the microwave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Figure it out for yourself, moms at work.
Yes. And, you know, but today, you wouldn't even think about doing that. It just shows you what the difference in the time. You know, my daughter, she was definitely a latchkey kid. She knew the rules. You come home from school, you let yourself in, you lock the door, you give me a call so I know that you're home. We even had her little hiding place in case you got scared, or, you know, you did all of those kinds of things, but that was that generation.
And don't let nobody in the house.
And don't let
Even if
nobody-
it was your relative.
don't
Don't
let-
let nobody in the house.
Absolutely. So you had all of those rules, but this Generation X, that was the era in which they grew up in. They're entrepreneurial, and and I think it has to do with the fact that they were latchkey kids. A lot of them became so independent, and even now today they're very independent. Okay, next one. All right, now here we go with the millennial. This is empathetic with others, hopeful and sensitive. I was kind of surprised about this when I was doing the study on this one with the millennials, because you wouldn't think the 27 to 44-year-olds will be as compassionate as they are. And I experienced that with one of my great nieces. I mean, she's got a terrible temper. She's short on patience. But watch the way she handles the older people in the family. She just calms right on down. She said, "Oh, I know Auntie Mary." She even with me, she has a lot more patience when it comes down to dealing with them. She don't have patience with other people, but I just was kind of amazed. She is very empathetic with the elders, hopeful and sensitive. They're also very sensitive people too, and they came of age during the internet explosion. They are considered digital pioneers who embrace the rise of social media, instant messaging, and smartphones. Their communication style, their style is characterized by collaboration, speed, and flexibility. They are accustomed to instant communication and often prefer text-based methods, the instant messaging or texting to quick changes, nonverbal. This is what I tell my sister when she fusses about, well, my granddaughter won't call me, I called her, I sent her a birthday card, I did this and I did that. I said, you want to find out what your granddaughter is doing, go on Facebook. That's what she is. She's not gonna call you, but she'll post everything on Facebook. You wanna see what she's doing? And I'll go on and I'll look, I'm like, yeah, I saw her on Facebook. Yeah, that's what she is. She's not calling you back. Text her. Well, unfortunately, my sister doesn't text. But that's that area. They don't believe in talking. They don't meetings face to face. More than likely, this is what they're, that's their mode of communication. Now we go to Gen Z. Gen Z is the 11 to 26. Technology adept, introverted, social media. Okay, this generation have never known a world without the internet or the smartphone. That's their world. And their communication style is fast, visual, and informal. They are masters of brevity, using slang, memes, and emojis to convey complex emotions and ideas quickly. They are highly adept at multitasking across multiple digital platforms preferences. They strongly prefer short form video like TikTok, Instagram, Reel, and Stories. And you see them all of the time. They are the ones that are blowing up the TikTok, the X, and all these other social media names that are coming up. This is that generation. Okay, they're the ones that are blowing this up. And like I said, they are also the ones who have never lived without technology. Now, this last group is kind of interesting. This is your generation Alpha. These are, your babies, your great-grands. And that generation Alpha is growing up in the world where technology is not just a tool, but a fully integrated part of their environment. They are being shaped by AI, voice assistant, and hyperconnectivity from birth. You've seen a baby in a carriage with their own little smartphone. They can push that button. Every baby's got a little computer now. That's their area. I mean, and this is like 10 and below. And like I said, I was, you see mothers all. Matter of fact, that's how mothers, when the baby is crying, what do? Give them the cell phone. Give them the cell phone. That'll quiet them down. Their communication style, where their communication is still forming, it is expected to be even more visual, interactive, and technologically integrated than Gen Z's. They are learning to interact with technology through voice commands like Alexa, Google Box, or Siri, and gesture-based interfaces is shaped by social media short form video. This is what my great-grandfather, my great-grandson, Benny, I got a, he has his own little YouTube channel. He does TikTok. So none of this, and most of the people, when I talk about like in that silent generation, even most of them in the baby boomers, oh, I'm not getting on Facebook. I'm not putting my business out there. This is all they know. This technology is all they know. So like I said, If you wanna know, and you wanna keep up with what they're doing, whether you're in it or not, at least you should have a working knowledge enough to be able to check on and see what it is that they're doing. And this is where a lot of times children are targeted through social media, because they got all of these reels and stories, and that's where a lot of sexual predators do prey on these young people through social media, because they're on there all the time. And they don't have the ability, and not just the Alpha, but also the Gen Z. So those are the ones you really have to be kind of protective of, because like I said, they haven't really formed yet, and they're not able to discern what's good and what's bad, because to them everything on social media is either funny or just something curious. It's gonna arouse their curiosity. So let's go to the next slide. Any questions now that I've run through the various generations? All right, so now that go back. Yeah.
There we are.
Okay, so now I want to talk about this. And the reason I point this out is because guess what the most contentious group is out of these 6 generations? The ones that have the least problem of being able to communicate with each other. Any idea? Can you see that?
I'm gonna say the silent generation,
And what other?
or the baby boomers.
Okay.
And the baby, I would say those 2.
And you were right. And why?
I don't-
I'll tell you why.
We did a lot of face-to-face, we did a lot of group and face-to-face social interaction. So
Okay.
we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's meet, can we talk?
Okay. These 2 groups, the silent generation and the baby boomers, are the most contentious, is because, like I was saying here, these people are humble and cautious. These people are very aggressive. This is when I fall into. I have a girlfriend. She called me up, Helen, I can't get mama to do nothing. She won't give me the name of the bank. She gave me power of attorney, but she won't give me the name of the bank. She won't tell me what the bank account is. My brother falls into this. My brother called me up and he said, sis, I want everybody to know my daughter took out a life insurance policy. If anything happens to me, I just want everybody to be made aware of. Suspicious.
Yeah.
So I called him my niece. I said, look, your dad is concerned that you took out a life insurance policy on him. What's going on? And she said, well, it's only she and her brother, and she's the most responsible one. She just said, well, I just know down the road my dad's care's gonna fall on me, and I just want to try to put something in place. He didn't ask her why. He just got all paranoid about it. Okay? And that's because, like I said, these 2, they're not really talking together, but they're more likely to bump heads. Okay, between the silent generation and baby boomer. And so, and the approach is a lot different. So when you come to these people over here who grew up in the Depression, who kept their heads down, who didn't want to bug the system, you can't be all aggressive when you come up with it to them. You got to take into consideration that they may not be that open with their information, because they're so used to holding everything close, and they're always thinking that somebody's out to get them. Generation X and baby boomers, okay, these 2, okay, this is great grandmother, grandmother, mother. Okay, the reason I point these 3 out right here is because, like, these are the 3 main tiers that most of us gonna fall into. But I tell you what, if you wanna know what the great grandmother plans are, the great grandfather plans are, what they wanna do, guess who you ask?
The grandchildren.
The grandchildren, yes.
They will tell that grandbaby anything they want. The grandbaby, or the great, God forbid, the great grand, they look at grandma, what you gonna do with your house when you go? Oh, baby, I'm gonna give it to you.
I've seen that.
So that's why I just said, when you're having the family meeting, it's important to don't ignore the bottom tier. These are your main people to get anything out of grandma and the great grand. They may not get that much out of mama. But they can get anything out of the grandma. So if you wanna know some information about where grandma keeps her bank, or grandma, can I go to the bank with you? Yeah, baby, come on. You let this one say, Mama, I'm gonna go with you to the bank. Why you wanna go with me to the bank? And even the generation that is still gonna be suspicious of, I don't know, you just want my money, you just wanna know how much money I got. But they not gonna give a second thought to anybody on this lower level. So that's what I'm just saying, when you're communicating even within your family, it's good to just understand the characteristics and why that person is the way they are. And it's not so much that they are against them, but they came from a different era. Their communication style might be different than what yours is. So it's good to understand and help you to have a little bit more patience with them. And then, like I said, if you can't get any information out of them, then just start talking to the ones on the lower level. Any questions about this? About the generations and how they talk? Because I'm going to go into something a little bit different.
It's good stuff.
You're at 26 minutes.
See if you can click on that with that video. This is gonna be a short video. I'm just gonna play a little. It's about a 4-minute video.
No connection.
Okay. No, just hit retry. Yeah. Listen. Oh, it's not connected to the internet? Oh. Alright, just give me a minute. Oh, okay. Okay, well maybe, are you guys okay with me on the time? Cause, okay, skip that. I could just skip the video. Maybe skip that. Okay. Do we have volume? Okay, well, we could skip the video. We don't have to do that. I'll just skip those other 2 slides. Because the main reason I was gonna show this slide is because this is what we call a generational video. This is about a great-grandmother interacting with her great-grandson. And the great-grandson is videotaping her as she tells him the story about the Holocaust and what all she went through at the Holocaust. And then I have another one that I was gonna show with my great-grandson, where at Christmas time, I always get the youngest child to read the story about Jesus' birth. And the one that I have is the one where my grandson is actually reading the story. And the reason I point those out is because when I say, how do you get young people involved? A lot of times we get